This is the Sandman on TV Podcast Industries, and we're discussing the Sandman Chapter 4, A Hope in Hell.
Hello, Dream.
Greetings to you, Lucifer Morningstar. And to you, Mazakino the Lilim.
Greetings, Dream Lord.
You look well, Dream. Are you well? And your family? Destiny, death, despair, and the others?
I presume the ruler of hell knows this is no social call.
Have you come to join forces, then? To ally your realm to ours? To acknowledge the sovereignty of hell?
You know my feelings on that, Lightbringer.
Feelings change. Especially when one has been caught and imprisoned by mortals. We expected better of you, sweet Morpheus.
I have come because my helm of state was stolen from me. I believe one of your demons has it. I should like it back. Now.
Welcome back, fellow dreamers. This is TV Podcast Industries, and we are discussing the Sandman Chapter 4, A Hope in Hell. Yes, we are getting warm under the collar and hot around the edges, I guess, as we discuss this fourth episode of the Sandman series on Netflix. I am one of your hosts, John.
And I'm your other host, Derek, for this one. Just the two of us this time, talk about this episode of Sandman. Lots and lots of recording going on TV Podcast Industries at the moment, so we decided to split our efforts so that we can get through all the stuff that we're covering at the moment.
Yes. Chris can't be with us, so we hope to see him again soon on the other podcasts that we're doing.
We will. Yes, we've got She-Hulk and we've got Umbrella Academy at the moment that we're doing, so Chris will be on the other ones of those.
Yes, definitely. We hope you're enjoying The Sandman as much as we are. Mm-hmm. If you are new to TV Podcast Industries, please head on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe on any dreamlike or nightmarish podcast player of your choice. And of course, we love to hear from you for our feedback section as well. So you can send in your feedback by email to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. Let us delve into our spoiler-filled discussion of episode 4, A Hope in Hell. Derek, what are some of the episode details?
Well, the executive producers for the show are Alan Hamburg, Neil Gaiman, and David S. Goyer. This episode was written by Austin Guzman, previously written for Scandal and Grey's Anatomy, interestingly.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And the episode was directed once again by Jamie Childs, who directed episodes 2, 3, and 4, and also directs the next episode, episode 5. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Sandman Chapter 4, A Hope in Hell?
Sure. To retrieve his helm, Morpheus descends into hell with his raven companion Matthew, where they meet Lucifer Morningstar, the realm's ruler. Using his recovered pouch of sand, Morpheus finds the demon Choronzon with his helm, but in order to get it back, the demon challenges Morpheus to a game of wits. Morpheus chooses to represent himself in the challenge, but the demon chooses Lucifer as his champion. Morpheus eventually wins the challenge by invoking hope, a concept which Lucifer recognizes as unbeatable, and is able to regain his helm. Before he leaves, Lucifer promises to one day kill Morpheus. Meanwhile, the recently liberated John Dee is offered assistance by a good Samaritan to retrieve the ruby, but not before Morpheus discovers its whereabouts and the fact that John has altered the item to attune to his own wishes and nobody else's, leaving Morpheus unconscious and without his ruby. John Dee arrives and retrieves the ruby and passes on the protection amulet to his terrified rescuer Rosemary, deciding that she needs the protection more than he does now he has his ruby.
Excellent. Two big storylines from the comics here, combined into one here. We've got Passengers, which is the story of John Dee on his travels. And we've got, Hope and Hell, the trip to hell to battle Lucifer for the helm. So still on this quest, effectively, to get all Hubba's 3 items back for Morpheus.
Yes, it is effectively 2 down and 1 to go. But that
he's right there. He had it in his hands.
It is right there. That last one is going to prove a little tricky.
I think it will,
to be honest, given that it seems to do that power pulse that knocks him away from it. Yeah. But I think, before we spoil it too much, without getting into detail, let's get into our top moments from this episode of The Sandman. First up, it is The Passengers, the John Dee storyline with effectively his driver or his chauffeur, poor old Rosemary.
Oh, this is such a fabulously translated story. The tension that rises throughout the moments with Rosemary and John Dee in the car, I think, are just fantastically done. Very different from the comic books. We mentioned before that John Dee was a villain that was locked up in Arkham Asylum in the comic books. He takes the car by force. He takes out a gun and holds it on the driver to take him to where he wants to go to. Whereas here we have this Good Samaritan, Rosemary, who picks him up, helps him find a slipper that he seems to have lost, and treats him like a kindly old man almost, that's kind of unaware of his surroundings. So takes him on this journey with him. And I really like how the tension, as I said, rises between the two of us. She realizes what John Dee's all about and his history and what got him to where he was. It's
absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's interesting that you say the comics, it's more of a hijacking really at gunpoint rather than this hitchhiker Good Samaritan notion, because I think the Good Samaritan aspect works really, really well. I mean, as the audience, we see Rosemary and, she pulls over because he's in the middle of the road, having been kind of disorientated and knocked off his feet by looking for his slipper as he crosses the road and all the cars going past him. And then simply offers, well, is there anywhere that I can take you to? And, it's to find the ruby, and it's on her way to where Rosemary's going. So, this is all really kind of like nice of Rosemary. And it is just that whole moment of, her behind the wheel, hearing John Dee matter-of-factly talk about, murder, arson, and all of this. It's not that John Dee, I mean, I like this version of John Dee that doesn't do a hijacking, but goes on his way but is so set in his aim, in his mission, that he doesn't want to hear people lie. And he applies that without bar to everyone who he meets that or is unlucky enough to be in his presence for too long. And here Rosemary is stuck in the car with him. And so it all begins to tease out when, after hearing that he's murdered people, he's a general bringer of mayhem.
But they were bad people.
And an arsonist. But exactly, they were bad people. It's that matter-of-fact tone. John Dee is almost, well, I'm telling the truth here. I've done this stuff. This is what I thought of these people. And I'm telling the truth. Therefore, I'm not bad, because so many people lie.
Yes.
And Rosemary, I could just imagine being behind the wheel like Rosemary and just sort of, grabbing onto the steering wheel tighter and tighter and tighter. And because she stops for petrol to try and call the cops, sees the amulet of protection in action with the guy behind the counter at the gas station, then it just becomes, more and more tense. John realizes that she's lied and, again, learns that he's been in a psychiatric hospital for 30 years effectively. So I just love the tension that this generated. I mean, you were going, okay, Rosemary's a goner here. And I just couldn't, there's the tension of a gun being pointed at you. Absolutely. And you can have that, but this is just so much more subtle, in that sense.
And I think,
and unknown to Rosemary. I mean, she doesn't know before the gas station that amulet can do what it does.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
she's only just met John Dee, you know, and so it starts off as this, well, I'm doing my good deed to bring this seemingly sort of disorientated man to a place that will be safer for him. And in the end, it gets into, you know, a moral debate about whether she is a liar ultimately.
Yeah.
Whether she believes in lies, and that is, you know, her answers tip the balance as to whether John Dee thinks they're a worthy person or not, you know, and it's just so sort of creepy because it's completely out of her control. It's the gun to the back of the head without the gun.
Exactly.
And without her knowing it for most part of the journey. Until the gas station. Okay, so I loved it.
Yeah, you really have to give it to the two performers here. David Thewlis is well known, a really good actor, and he really gets across that creepiness of this character. And then Sarah Niles playing Rosemary here is just, she feels really sweet, and she feels like, you know, she's got herself into this really bad situation that she can't get herself out of. It is that moment where she realizes, after he's saying he's killed a few people, but they weren't very nice people, that he's seemingly justifying all of the bad things that he's done in his life. And he's connecting it to people who lie, saying that people lie out of fear, people lie out of anger, people lie out of aggression. Do you lie? He says to Rosemary, and she's saying, no, that was my former husband. I never lie. He was the liar in our relationship, kind of thing. So she's building a platform with him. She's building this, understanding with him. And he feels he's getting his point across and his justification across for why he's done what he's done. And again, even when the guy in the gas station dies, it's because he shot a bullet at John Dee and the amulet stopped it and killed him. It's not because John Dee murdered him. Yeah. So again, another way of John Dee able to justify what's happened here.
Well, that's it. He also asks about whether she lies to her children as well. I know more kind of pressure on, well, if I answer this the wrong way, what's going to happen?
Exactly.
I think what's interesting as well is John Dee here is fundamentally believes that people are selfish, and that's why they lie. And I think the saving grace for Rosemary is, even when they've arrived at the destination and John Dee has gone in to get the ruby, is that Rosemary unknowingly sticks around here and offer. I mean, I love that she says, I know I'm going to regret this, but offers a lift to John Dee. And it's like, you know, are you going to kill me? Just don't harm Susie, her Rottweiler who's with her. Don't harm my children. And I think that selfless act, given the conversation beforehand, I think John Dee realizes that whatever it is, I'm still not entirely sure. I thought the gas station was going to be the turner really.
Right.
But John Dee, I think because of the selfless act of just offering the lift, but saying, I'm going to regret this. And if you are going to kill me, don't harm my dog or my kids, probably is enough to sort of switch John Dee to then ultimately realizing that at her heart, Rosemary is this kind, good person.
Absolutely.
And that's why he gives her the amulet of protection, because, well, you're going to need it now.
Yeah, and nobody can touch you now, even me. It almost seems like she's shown him how scary he is to her. In a polite enough way that it didn't make him do anything effectively. Because again, to his mind, he's not doing anything here. He's not carrying a gun where he can pull a trigger and kill her. If she attacked him, the amulet would protect John Dee and kill her. So, this again is different from the comic. In the comic, it doesn't end well for the driver. So I like the spin that they've done on this story. It gives more tension to the scene and gives more for the actors to do in the scene. And I wonder this item that she has, this orb of protection. You know, we've seen that it's given long life to people. Will we see Rosemary back in another episode
Yeah,
in a future
maybe,
season.
yeah.
So that is where the story ends. John Dee has recovered his ruby, which he's put his stamp on, and now is the only one that can use. So I guess we're going to have to see a showdown between him and Morpheus in the future for that.
I'm guessing so. Yeah, absolutely. But shall we move on to our other journey here, which is the journey through hell, our next top moment. And at least from my side, you know, I guess, you know, as a child, and, you know, my vicar probably wouldn't be too pleased, but hell looked amazing. You know, in terms of the visuals, at least, I just loved the whole look and feel about that. Yes, there was fire, but it was just more barren, actually. And I really liked the representation of it. I thought, Lucifer Morningstar's palace, just the look of it was amazing. And certainly with the pentagraph door, really good. I loved the response of Matthew in these moments on our journey through hell, where the blood starts seeping out into the grooves in front of the door, and he's like, right, I'm just going to take off here and fly around and keep my feet out of the blood that's oozing to help open the door.
Absolutely. And even his comment on the fact that there's no fire in hell except what the lost souls are bringing themselves.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
Carrying the torches to walk through.
I loved it. And I think the other bit as well, I loved how, you know, like where the gate was, with the rocks being made out of the souls and the bodies of people, and the same with them kind of almost grafted into the tree as well. And again, I really enjoyed that moment of Matthew flying up to try and see where Squatter Bloat that was the gatekeeper demon who had let them into hell, see where he was after they had lost him in the woods. And there's, or just all these souls grafted to the trees. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So I really enjoyed that. It was a real nice little light relief of this journey to Lucifer's palace. And I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely
loads.
Brilliant production design here. You know, the visuals again coming really strongly through from the comic as their guide, but seeing them, you know, in live action is still something that I didn't think was possible. And it's real human bodies moving in the walls of that gate. You know, there's definitely something really creepy about the way that they've done it, and it comes across really well.
And I'm sure it's a representation of the comics. Interestingly, with the gates of hell, I loved the design, but they were smaller than I thought they would be.
Right.
And certainly when compared to Morpheus's gates, which are absolutely sort of massive. And so I was thinking, you know, is that where the envy comes from Lucifer with Morpheus? He's got better sort of front gates than Lucifer does. I mean, I thought they were like amazing, the design of them, just like crookedness.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the bars on the prison, where it's almost like huge thorns and so on. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, really cool. I wonder it's just because Morpheus dreams bigger, John.
Maybe, exactly.
That's it. But just wanted to kind of call out the production design here again, because the show is going to so many different places, different time periods, different realms now. And I think each time they're taking a real opportunity to create something stunning looking.
Yeah, definitely.
Really cool.
I liked as well that, you know, just before entering the gates, you kind of get that warning that from Morpheus is that, you know, the last time he was there, he was an envoy of his realm, invited, you know, that Lucifer actually invited himself. This time, it's slightly different in that Morpheus is inviting himself to come, is imposing himself on Lucifer's time and schedule, I guess, of tormenting people.
Well, kind of. I suppose it's a similar thing to going to somebody else's home. If you're invited there, they must break bread with you, and they must treat you with respect. Give you all the privilege of a guest until you leave. Whereas here, he's invited himself, which kind of it means he loses that protection. You probably remember that from Game of Thrones. That was a big George R. R. Martin thing about people going to the other houses of their enemies. Once you're there, you have to be treated as a guest and then you can leave. Anybody that breaks that is really frowned upon. So similar kind of idea here in Sandman, that Morpheus has kind of given up that protection because getting his helm back is so important to himself that effectively he can't be treated, or wouldn't be treated as a guest by Lucifer. Lucifer may play tricks on him or may do something to keep him there in the realm.
Yeah, definitely.
And they kind of do, which is the next part of the journey through hell. Squatterbloat takes Morpheus past the cage of Nada.
Yes.
Now, the full story isn't told in this episode. This is a very big, this is an entire issue in the comic books, the story of who Nada is, and who Morpheus, aka Lord Kaikul, was, and the connection between the two of them. You saw it on screen, you saw just this, you haven't read the comic books, John. What did you think of this concept? Did you get the idea of who Nada could be?
I thought it was really interesting. I mean, I just assumed Morpheus was potentially shape-shifting. I didn't necessarily, I wasn't 100% clear on this. I thought it was cool that there was this bond. I just assumed that it was a former queen of the dream realm that had been, disobedient or hadn't committed to him. I mean, we do hear Morpheus say to Nada, you know, I still love you, but I don't forgive you. Matthew asking the question, you know, who was that? She disobeyed me and has been there now for 10,000 years.
Yes.
But I didn't get the sense of another life there. I thought it was potentially his chosen queen then. And he had shapeshifted into a different form, and that was the form he was taking in that moment, as the Lord of Dreams.
Yeah.
But in speaking with you, I got the sense that this was actually just from a completely different time. So,
well, a completely different time, as in 10,000 years ago. I suppose that the whole point of Morpheus is he's an endless. He's a member of the endless, therefore eternal. What may not be clear, I suppose, is dream appears whatever way the dreamer sees dream. So because Nada had seen him as Lord Kaikul in the past, he's appearing as Lord Kaikul to her there. And yeah, most of the story is there on screen. I don't want to spoil what it is that's happened between the two of them. I think that's the last bit of the story, the last piece that needs to be added to it, which will be added in a later story, I believe. But yeah, you're pretty right. There's a relationship with them. He's in love with her. It's been 10,000 years, and something happened between them that has caused her to be sent to the realm of hell. And it is effectively Squatterbloat and Lucifer rubbing salt in the wounds of Morpheus before he gets to them, saying, look what we have here. We haven't forgotten that you've left her in this realm, effectively.
Yeah, it's putting him on edge, distracting him with it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really interesting moment, and one that is totally intriguing, and so really hope that they do come back with the wider story of this, because it is, I mean, I said disobeyed, but I think Morpheus has defied him, so you know it seems quite important.
It is, yes. Good stuff. I'll leave it there. I don't want to spoil anything further out there, because we need to get to the verbal battle for the dream helm, which is the real central moment of the story. We find out that the demon who's taken the helm of Morpheus, or who's gotten the helm of Morpheus, is Choronzon. This really odd pink-skinned demon. Comic books has two mouths, which is always really creepy, and I wondered how they pulled that off. They didn't. They just went for one mouth. He just looks a bit weird, but all demons do. All demons look very odd. He does look still quite similar. The pink hair and the spike, the pink skin and the spiky hair is very similar to his look in the comic books as well. But he's always had two mouths, which looks even creepier. So I'm surprised they didn't include that, because they've been so close to the comics.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think first off, I have to say, I just really enjoyed Gwendoline Christie as Lucifer. It was kind of, because it wasn't played evil. It was almost played this is Lucifer.
Yeah.
You know, and I just really enjoyed just the presence that she had. I mean, with the white and the black wings, I thought was really great. Kind of that contrast was really great. I love the fact that, you know, it almost got a sense of resentment towards Morpheus as well. That, you know, he's pretty good at what he does, and I think a lot of the other you know, kings and queens of realms and brothers and sisters of the D clan, I guess, you know, have a bit of envy ultimately over some of the things that he can do. Absolutely. And the type of power that he has.
Yeah, and I think the connection in there for Lucifer, and you hear them asking, is it time now for us to merge our realms? The connection between the two is Lucifer is the Lord of Demons, and Morpheus is the Lord of Nightmares, and demons and nightmares are quite similar things for a lot of people. So in Lucifer's mind, it's kind of going, well,
synergy.
If we put these two together, then some of our demons can run riot in the heads of humans. You know, so there's a bit of that. There's definitely the tension there between the two of them, but again, played with this, I'll call it a bit stiff upper lip British kind of feel about the conversation between the two of them. It's still very polite between the two of them. You can sense those barbs underneath, though. Yeah,
exactly. It's a lot of protocol, a lot of kind of this official, almost diplomatic protocol, but underneath you get a real sense of resentment.
Yes,
and it's even got the sense that Morpheus plays up to this as well, so he's a little bit more obnoxious in terms of how because he knows, you know. So I really enjoyed.
Have a long history together as heads of their realms. I suppose they've had a lot of dealings over the years as well. Gwendoline Christie is fantastic in this. We know her obviously really well as Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones, one of our favorite characters from Game of Thrones over those many seasons. But lovely little touches here. She's the one that reached out to ask for this role and thought she'd be great for it, and she truly looks the part. Side by side with the panels, looks fantastic as Lucifer, but also her partner is a dress designer, and he's the one that designed the outfits that Lucifer wears.
Okay, excellent. Even when they go into verbal battle mode, they do wear their S&M verbal battle mode.
They do. Now I'm not sure.
I thought was really good. I loved how it suddenly went all kind of leather / PVC on it.
It went very Matrix, didn't it?
Yeah, very shiny. Shiny Lucifer Morningstar and very sort of leather Morpheus.
Yes. Have a look. There's a good chat between Gwendoline Christie and Tom Sturridge where they watch this scene and kind of feed back their thoughts on the fight. And I love how Netflix posted it saying we asked them to comment on the fight and we had no idea what we were going to get, and they really don't talk about the fight at all. They just comment on things like they can see each other in the leather outfits that they're wearing and stuff. So it's very funny but not very informative, let's say.
But I mean this exactly. I mean but this challenge then is really good. I like.
Yes, I want to know what you thought of this.
Yeah, I just thought it was really good how this verbal battle of what effectively can do damage to you through the spoken word, and which takes physical representation. And you know, so you have the wounds or the effects of what has been verbalized taking shape, and like again another little nod to the universes or the galaxies in the eyes of Morpheus, where he says I am a universe, and it goes through his eyes, which was really nice moment.
Very cool.
And
like, this is a real Neil Gaiman thing. This is something that only Neil Gaiman has been able to pull off in his writing and books. So it's really interesting to see something like this brought to life. And I'm sure the production designer and the directors and the people at Warner Brothers who were making the show were kind of wondering, could they pull this back? Because a lot of CGI work here, a lot of things that need to be created and things that need to be filmed to get the power of what they're saying to each other. And I'm sure they were kind of going, can we just have 3 things, maybe not 9, or not, the constant back and forth that's happening here. It goes from the dire wolf stalking its prey to the man on a horse, as a hunter, to the snake that attacks a horse, the eagle that attacks the snake. I love how it's going through each of those. And then it gets more and more intense as Lucifer's calling that she's the butcher bacterium, which will destroy all life. And then it comes to Morpheus with I am a world, an entire planet, life nurturing, and then it's a nova, planet cremating, and it just gets more and more intense until the biggest thing is Lucifer saying that she is anti-life, the beast of judgment, the dark at the end of everything. And Morpheus finds the one thing that can defeat all is hope.
Yes, it was really good. And I liked, with the pep talk from Matthew here as well, because Morpheus is on the ground. It seems like Morpheus almost has a bit of the upper hand right at the start, where the direwolf didn't really seem to have an effect on him, whereas he gets a shot in with the arrow from the hunter.
Yes.
But by the end of it, having gone through the butcher bacterium and effectively a nova, a supernova, and then anti-life, he's pretty pretty out of it. But I love the hope element here, that comes forth. And I think it's not only that. Ultimately we have, Lucifer Morningstar being publicly humiliated here, in front of all the demons. Matthew calls this out, but again, it ends up with a win for Dream in this verbal battle, and he does get his helm back. And I loved how the conversation then went, because it's a bit to the point of almost Morpheus playing it up, where he's very officious, it's very protocol. The ruler of hell is honorable, and it's the moment where almost that protocol dissolves because of how Morpheus has intonated it to Lucifer, who kind of goes, honorable? You're joking. It's kind of, I'm not. And she retorts with, what power do dreams have in hell? And I love the twist on it, in the sense of, what power does hell have without dreams? How do you keep these souls, these demons here, if not for the hope that they might escape, or escape to something better, or hope to go back to a previous life out of agony and torment,
hope to go to heaven. Yeah.
So really, really good. And I loved that. I think the other thing I didn't really touch upon, I loved how Morpheus used the sand to locate the helm from all the demons that were there, because you have, how are you going to find it? There's that awkwardness of, well, who has it? Well, I don't know.
Just call all of them, every single one of them. And it's a real stand. It's a real show of strength, I suppose, from Lucifer. It's really interesting. These are stories that Gaiman uses quite a lot. Obviously, with Good Omens, we talked about the demons of hell and the angels of heaven. He does like to use the concepts of heaven and hell quite a lot. So I think great to see this portrayal of Lucifer on screen. I really hope we get to the next time we see Lucifer in the story. I hope we get a second, maybe even a third season to get to that point, because the next story is my favorite of the Lucifer stories.
Okay, excellent stuff. Yeah. Great stuff. Well, let us move on to our final top moment of this. This is the ruby being retrieved by John Dee. And ultimately, we've touched on it before, that now Morpheus has his helm. Now that he has his sand, he's able to locate the ruby, except as he goes to pick it up, he realizes it's not the same item. It's not the same object that he had, that it had been, it's been altered, by someone else to a different purpose. And this blast of rejection effectively from the ruby itself, because he's not that person, knocks him and Matthew out. So that was really interesting concept that, you know, the ruby has been altered. And I mean, okay, it's not as such explained here, but, you know, how John Dee has been able to do that ultimately, you know, what, I guess a lot of reading in the past when he was able to discover that you could alter it and so on. So I guess that sounds like a really intriguing story behind that alteration of the ruby as well, which I'm hoping we get to see, because I just find that kind of fascinating. Because a mortal has altered the object from an endless, in the same way as the retort of Lucifer saying, you were captured by mortals, not something that would ever happen to me.
And once again, just because you've mentioned that line from Lucifer, again, another being knew where Morpheus was for those 100 years and didn't go anywhere near them, didn't even send demons to taunt him in his capture, knew he was there. But a really interesting one. It's something that's obviously going from the first episode. We're only on episode 4 of the show. He effectively has had his hands on all 3 of the tools that he's coming to collect at this stage. So I love the way that they have incorporated this back in, him using the sand to find the helm in hell, then using the helm to find the ruby, and now he's got the ruby, but it's no longer his ruby, so he now has to, a very powerful item has now changed ownership effectively.
Exactly.
So that's quite interesting. I suppose we did hear John Dee talk to Ethel, his mother, earlier on in the season, saying to her, we have the power of the ruby and we can remake the world in our own image. So it effectively grants wishes or creates dreams into reality. So if one of the dreams was that the ruby was his and his only to control, that would be how he's made it.
So the ruby, it is ultimately the ownership and who owns it of the ruby that in some ways dictates the type of power it might be. And Morpheus's, you know, raison d'etre, his reason, is the creator of dreams and nightmares, and that's what this ruby does. But in the hands of John Dee, there's a different wish there. And maybe, as you say, with the presence of the helm and the pouch of sand being possibly close by, with John getting this fascination, maybe that also, you know, aided that transformation, that alteration of the ruby. So I was kind of fascinated by this. And I felt like, you know, maybe the true explanation, it didn't quite come out there, but it didn't need to for me. It was intriguing, and I felt I'd like to learn about how he was able to do that. But it could be, as simple as the ownership. So I really...
or the fact that he dreamed it, therefore it's now reality. He did say it to Ethel that the ruby is his and nobody else can use it. He said that before she died. So,
so I thought that was really, really good, and that kind of rejection of the ruby of its former master. So I really enjoyed that, and I guess retrieving the ruby ultimately isn't going to be as easy as Morpheus first thought.
Yes, exactly. We'll see a bit more of that, I'm sure, in the next episode, if it's taking the story that we think it's taken as we're going into the next episode. Any thoughts, notes that we haven't talked about from the episode, John?
The only thing is, and it kind of maybe is just connected to the last point, I didn't mention it, is, you know, when John Dee has the ruby, he says he's going to use it to save the world. You know, in his mind, he's saving the world, with the need to have everyone speak the truth.
Yes.
You know, so I thought that was really good. And I think shout outs to Rottweiler Susie.
Yes, she was
a good girl.
A good girl, yeah. Good dog.
Good dog.
Yeah, also another shout out to Mazageen of the Lilium. Very cool to see Mazageen on screen. I think she's been on screen in the Lucifer TV show before, so that character has appeared on screen, that Lucifer TV show. Slightly based on this Lucifer character from Neil Gaiman, but a completely different character put on screen in the 5 seasons of Lucifer. But that's a little nod there. Mazikeen, we hopefully will see her back in the future and get a bit more of the story of the half burnt faced lady who resides in hell alongside Lucifer.
Yes, because there did seem to be the intonation of a closer relationship between Morpheus and Mazikeen of the Lilium.
Yes, potentially. We need to find out why.
Yes,
she looks like that and why she lives where she does.
Exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Overall, John, what did you think of the Sandman Chapter 4, I Hope in Hell?
I absolutely loved it. I would give it 5 hellish hitchhikers out of 5. I mean, for me, this was, 2 journeys, one through hell, and one through sort of figurative hell with Rosemary, to the Ruby, in Mayhew. And I just really enjoyed all of it. I think just the performances, the visuals, the tension between Rosemary and John, that realization of who the hell is in my who's on my back seat, basically. I'm glad Rosemary wasn't bumped off effectively by John. I just thought it was a nice sort of aspect to that. And just so many different things around, the challenge between Dream and Lucifer. He's got his helm back, and it was just all really good. So much intriguing stuff here, whether it was Kaikul and Nada and what happened there, even the history of Dream with Lucifer Morningstar, as well as Mazikeen, the history of John D, in terms of how he was able to alter this ruby from, the realm of the dreams. I just really, really enjoyed it. So, it's 5 hellish hitchhikers out of 5 from me.
Fantastic.
Derek, what did you think about the Sandman Chapter 4?
This is fabulous. This is the true melding of 2 great stories from the comic book, and at the center of them, let's say 4 great performances from all of the actors involved in those scenes. And I loved how the John D. and Rosemary story, really you could put that on stage as a short story, a short tale with the 2 of them. There's not a huge amount going on other than the conversations and how they're delivered to each other. And then on the other side of it, you have the absolutely fantastical piece that's delivered so well in comic book form, because you can draw whatever you want when you're drawing a page of comic book art. You can create whatever you want. But the entirety of the challenge back and forth between the 2 of skill, concentration, and transformation, that challenge back and forth between the 2 is a battle of words taking form, and it's done so well here for the show. So a really expensive and extensive argument or a battle between 2 on one side, and then a really toned down but really creepy, tense
definitely
discussion going on between another 2 about how the world is going. I think they're really beautifully paired together. Well done to the writer for getting these together from the book, and well done to everybody at Warner Brothers for putting this together on screen. It's fantastic. Great job.
Definitely.
One of my favorite episodes so far this season. I think I've said that after every episode of the season. And guess what, John? We're going to be coming up on episode 5, which is 24/7, the scariest issue of Sandman that has ever been put together in the 75 issues of Sandman.
Well, interesting, yeah. Will it translate into a scary episode? Or is it a different type of scare than I'm thinking of? More than likely, I'm guessing.
I think
but great stuff. We really enjoyed the Sandman episode 4. We hope you did too as well, fellow dreamers. But let us move in to our feedback episode, where we can delve into the thoughts and dreams of our fellow dreamers as to what they thought about episode 4.
Yes, we should. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts.
Yes, remember, you can send in your thoughts, theories, comments, whatever it is, to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com, or you can join our Facebook group over on facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries, where we have a spoiler post for each episode of The Sandman on flicks as well. You can also send in voicemails if you want to by email, or you can go to our website where you can record a clip of 90 seconds of your thoughts that will also come to us as well. So we absolutely would love to hear from our fellow dreamers, and I think to kick us off from hearing from them, we come to Coffee and Vodka, who says about episode 4, "Greetings, fellow twist-ended defenders. Looks like I spoke too soon. Dr. Destiny did indeed get his ride, and what a ride it was. And Morpheus went to hell with Matthew. Outside of a couple of zigs where a zag was expected, which weren't bad at all, this was the book brought to beautiful life. Gwendoline Christie made for a fantastic Lucifer, full of threatening grace. Dream, countering with his own inner strength of purpose, ripped straight from the pages. Patton's Matthew showed a performance I'd forgotten he was capable of, and the actor playing the driver of John Dee was completely convincing in her quiet terror. The details of Dream's 10,000-year love, unforgiven in all its painful, tortured elegance. Yes, this is what this series can be, and in this episode was. Pure game and magic, a sheer masterpiece. 5 hopeful hellscapes out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka." Excellent stuff, Coffee and Vodka. Thank you so much for the comments. Glad that this is getting into the groove and the wheelhouse for you for sure.
Yeah.
I think you've got it.
Yeah, 5 out of 5. And when it started at 2.5 out of 5 at the beginning of the season, I wonder if, because this is the first episode that didn't feature Corinthian, I wonder if that's a reason for it.
Well, maybe, possibly, yeah. But I think you have, described some of the aspects of this so well, in terms of Lucifer being full of threatening grace, absolutely spot on, and the painful, tortured elegance of that 10,000-year love and betrayal. And for certain, I think with Rosemary's sheer quiet terror as she is holding on for dear life to the steering wheel.
Yeah, Sarah Niles.
Really good.
Excellent in this episode. Really, really good.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Coffee and Vodka. Really good to hear from you for this episode. I'm sure we've got some more feedback coming in from you as well for the rest of the episodes. Over on Facebook, Victor Von Doom says, "Greetings, dreamers. I must say, Gwendoline Christie cleans up nice and is horrifying as Lucifer Morningstar. The showdown in hell is scary as well. Hell. I enjoyed the trash talking or taunting between Morpheus and Lucifer. Will this become a three-way battle between John Dee, Dream and Corinthian, with hell waiting on in the wings? Love the series and podcasts. Nighty night, dreamers."
Excellent stuff, Victor.
Thanks, Victor.
Really good. Yes, I think you're right. It was just this sort of high-level diplomatic trash talking, full of pointed taunting between Morpheus and Lucifer, and it was really, really good. And just one-upmanship, which I guess when it comes to realms of hell and dream, then, well, yeah, I wouldn't stay in the room.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't have the skill or the concentration and focus that Morpheus has. So
definitely,
really good stuff.
Yeah. So really glad you're enjoying the series as well, and our podcast. Really great to get your thoughts in. So thanks again, Victor.
Yes, thanks, Victor. Next up, Laura Willie Swink says, "Is it wrong for me to say that hell was beautiful?"
Not at all, Laura, at all.
Perhaps, like Lucifer, hell is all that was beautiful and glorious, but is now distorted and corrupted. Gwendoline Christie was perfect as the Morningstar. The only thing I missed in hell was Lucifer explaining the new politics of the underworld, and that it was no longer the sole monarch in hell. But I understand them removing the storyline for the sake of expediency and pacing. The challenge was beautifully imagined, especially with both Lucifer and Dream decked out in their Hellraiser leather garb. The shot of Dream rising up with darkened eyes to say hope felt like it popped right out of the comics. On the other side, David Thewlis's subdued but malevolent performance made the tension between John Dee and Rosemary utterly palpable. But I'll admit I did miss that one jaw-drop moment from the comics when John Dee coldly murdered his kindly companion. For me, that was the red wedding moment in the comics that made me realise the true stakes of this story, though I'm not sure how great a gift of an amulet of protection is from a spiteful demon who has just been humiliated and defeated. Many characters and events have been toned down for the show, but I won't complain. This is a bigger media reaching a wider audience and needs to be more palatable. I am enjoying some of the changes, additions, and minimal character alterations, and will enjoy this as a medium separate from, but with the same DNA as the comics. Still happy and dreaming. I give this a 9 out of 10 dreams of heaven. Thank you for the insightful coverage, gents. Thank you so much, Laura.
Yeah, thanks so much, Laura. I think it's really interesting because I haven't read the comics, so I haven't seen that alternate ending, effectively, the jaw drop, and I think that certainly would be for me. I need to read the comics. Don't get me wrong, but like my initial impression is that the jaw drop moment of him doing what he did in this episode without the gun and the hijacking element of it really would be, because he's kind of it's almost like he's trying to empathize. And I think that's the malevolence about what, I think Laura talks about with David Thewlis's, performance as John Dee, is that actually, if you don't fully know him, it's almost like he's trying to empathize with you. Yeah. There's an empathy, which is always considered a good thing. So you're kind of taken off guard when actually this probing on empathy about whether he can understand you. And he realizes it's probably very few people that he can empathize with. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, it doesn't go the way of what you would think, where there's where someone's trying to empathize. So I think totally agree with you. So I really want to kind of read that bit in the comics, because I thought what they did here with the two of them, with Rosemary and John Dee, I really enjoyed.
Yeah. I think it pretty much just drops John Dee into the complete villain mode, whereas here he's threatening, he's the tension is there, he's really malevolent, but you can still almost get past this idea that he might not be a villain. Maybe he has got a plan and he can justify that plan. When he does that, if he'd done that in the show, he would absolutely have been a villain. There's no coming back from that, I suppose. So part of the reason maybe for the setup for the next episode is to not have him as a villain, and maybe some people could see eye to eye with what he's saying.
Okay, excellent. Thanks so much, Laura, for your feedback and comments. Really, really good. Keep them coming, indeed. Yes. Dr. Bob Phillips says, "Wow, that's incredible the way they did the Tournament of Kings. The audio captured all sorts of images I never imagined could work on the screen, but they did. The mirrored battle in the waking world between kindness washed with the impurity of white lies and amoral selfishness tinted with his own rules for the world worked beautifully." Could not agree with you more. Absolutely thought it was just an incredible sort of mirrored journey for these gods and then these ordinary people ultimately. So yeah, absolutely, totally agree with you there, Dr. Bob. Thanks so much for that feedback. And finally, Ben Rush says, "I was kind of hoping for an Etrigan appearance, but maybe in Season of the Mist." Oh, I don't know that. But Ben Rush continues, "Another well done episode." Thanks so much, Ben.
Absolutely, thanks, Ben. Etrigan, another one of the demons of hell. So, not appearing here, but then again, every single demon of hell did appear in some way.
I guess he was there in the mix, in the crowd. Yes.
We just all we can hope, and I'm enjoying the series enough to say all we can hope for is a season 2, season 3, season 4. I think should cover all of the volumes of Sandman. Maybe they need 5. I haven't done the calculations yet, but hopefully we'll at least get a season 2, and if we do, we may get Season of the Mists in there.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us, fellow dreamers. That brings us to the end of our podcast coverage of Chapter 4 of The Sandman, A Hope in Hell.
Yes.
We hope you stay subscribed to the podcast, and if you enjoy what you hear, why not share it with your friends, family, or neighborhood demons, because sharing the podcast is, of course, sharing the terrified nature of Lucifer Morningstar. Sorry, I mean
Love.
sharing the love, of course. Yes. You can also support us through patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries as well as buymeacoffee.com/TVPI. Any which way you decide to support us is so very much appreciated.
Absolutely. We'll be back next time for a discussion on the Sandman Chapter 5, 24/7. Exciting.
Interesting. Yes, I am looking forward to this one indeed.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, fellow dreamers, again for chit-chatting with us. It's always great to talk with you about these great TV shows. And remember, in the meantime, keep watching, keep listening, and keep dreaming.
Bye.
Nighty night.